possession game. 114-110. Curry lets it fly. Canada, the NBA title is yours. The Toronto Raptors are the 2019 NBA champions.
Okay, so the city is pumped. We are ready to go for tonight's Game 6, where our Raptors, they can win it all. And whether you're going down to Jurassic Park or maybe you're heading out to watch the game somewhere, we have the potential for lightning in the prime time.
When I found out that the Raptors were going to be in the finals, I was thrilled. I was excited. As a fan, I was so stoked. But I had already booked a 2-week vacation to Cuba.
I was in Jamaica at a resort for my friend's wedding.
So I was taking the Great Canadian Via Rail train from Toronto to Vancouver.
We were planning this trip back home for like years, and we had bought tickets in January of 2019, so really early for the 13th of June.
I remember one thing from the day of Game 6 leading up to it, getting ready to do the show. One of the big talking points I was going to have with the guys back in Atlanta was about the weather being in Jurassic Park and whether it was going to be shut down. It was threats of rain and lightning storms. But I remember there was going around on Twitter, the idea of MLSC might let everybody in that was going to be in Jurassic Park into the arena.
Taking it tonight. We're ending this whole thing tonight. It's going to be good.
We have a strong feeling that Raps are going to win in 6. So we really came down here just, struggling, but we'll get there.
Rain. I guys deal with it.
I work in the hospital, and so what I did was I just tried to go through all my contacts. I remember reaching out to one of my colleagues, and he's like, when I asked him if he could cover me for the Thursday, Friday, his answer was, "Why, are you trying to get down to California?" And I was like, maybe. He's like, "Well, I already got tickets and I'm there, so I can't help you."
We knew it was going to happen in Game 6. We just had a feeling. So we're like, we're flying out.
We're like, Raptors in 6, that's it.
We arrived in Barcelona a few days before the championship day, having flown on Game 5 night.
Out of service to my patients, I really I want to make sure that I laid eyes on them before I got on the flight, even though I had a colleague covering for me. I want to go to the hospital before round on them, and then head over to California. So usually, by 8 o'clock, there's a lot of kids in the classroom and he settles in. And on this particular day, I wanted to get to the hospital early. So I'm dropping him off at 7 in the morning. He's got, he's still sleepy. He's got his clothes on. He barely fed him breakfast. And he's looking around. He's like, why is there only one other kid in the class?
The rain has stopped, fortunately, but it didn't matter Monday and it doesn't matter today. Fans come prepared, brave the elements, just to get in line to be inside Jurassic Park for tip-off tonight.
I sensed before the game a real sense of determination on the part of the Raptors. They were very disappointed not closing the deal at home in Game 5. And I think this was a group that was like, hey, we're better than these guys, and we're closing this out tonight.
It was just that feeling from when we first woke up that something special was going to happen, because that's the whole reason we flew out. We felt like it was going to be Game 6.
My friend, she got married and everybody's happy, celebrating. So the day went normal, but I can tell there was a building anxiousness that, at the reception, it was like, are we going to be able to watch the game?
I wrote a letter to the Cuban embassy and asked them where they were going to be watching the game, kind of hoping that they would invite me to the embassy. But they told me they were all going to a sports bar and that I could join them. So I get in this cab and I give the cab driver the address, and I'm going to meet the entire embassy staff at this bar, this sports bar, somewhere in Cuba.
Once we actually got in the air, you have to basically get to about 10,000 feet in the air altitude before you're actually able to access this online basically voucher. So we were able to get the premium service of streaming that they said would be able to kind of stream videos and that sort of stuff.
Actually, I landed in San Francisco, and the cab driver, I got an Uber drive. And I'm looking at him, and I was like, in the car, I noticed that he's not using Waze. He's like, why don't you use Waze to get to, because you have to go from San Fran to Oakland. So he's like, oh, I don't trust Waze. I've had bad experiences, and I'm here. I'm like, man, this is not the day where I want to risk getting stuck in traffic.
That we ended up getting into Winnipeg, Manitoba. So that was actually like the drop-off point for us. So we were told that if we did want to watch the Raptors game, we'd have to go to the Pearls. And then there was also a Forks kind of shopping area. So everyone in my group who wanted to see the Raptors, we're like, why would we go shopping? We can go shopping anytime. Let's go see the Raptors game. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
So I'll be completely honest, and this is probably the first time I'm ever saying this for public consumption, is that I never got to actually watch the entire game as it happened because it was my anniversary. So I had to choose, which one is it? Is it basketball or is it your wife? Is there a way that I can do both? And I mean, any married man would tell you, no, there is not.
I had a guy call me that I grew up with in Brooklyn, 35, 40 years ago, calls me and says, hey, you got 4 for the game tonight. I'm like, 4 what? He's like, 4 tickets. I'm like, 4 tickets? Are you nuts? This is the NBA Finals Game 6. Well, how about 2? How about 2? 2? I can't get my wife in the building. And you think I'm getting you in here?
I'm going to meet the entire embassy staff somewhere at a hotel in Havana. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And we get in the cab and we're driving so far, so far. And finally it pulls up at one of the fanciest hotels that I've ever seen. I was like, are they gonna let me in here? Like, I'm wearing all this like sports gear. I do not look like a fancy hotel. Like, there's no way they're gonna let me in.
As the wedding was going on with the dinner and the speeches and the cake cutting and the dancing, and I was thinking to myself, okay, this is great and all, and I'm really happy for my friend and everybody's having a good time, but I really need to go and watch the Raptors game,
We get there, it's a beautiful sunny day. We're late, so there's no lines through security. We grab our beers and head to our seats.
Guys, so we made it to the arena.
Actually, we were surprised when we were walking in. We saw a lot of Raptors fans. We thought we were going to be like completely alone.
Yeah.
But we saw quite a bit. Like, we were greeted by other Raptors fans walking off.
Cheering. They were cheering in the parking lot before we even got to scan our tickets. There were Raptors fans in the parking lot. When we would see each other, we would be like, "Hey, let's go Raptors!"
1, 2, 3. Way!
I kind of stood and looked around the arena, and there were so many Canadian flags and people wearing Raptor shirts and, people giving you the thumbs up and trying to make eye contact with you. It was a really, just a remarkable feeling and a vibe.
I had a feeling like I was about to play a game. So I was like making sure I had a big meal. We were like kind of calming our nerves because we were excited, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Since the rain had passed, we got this crazy idea of going down to Jurassic Park and seeing if we could get anywhere close down there, just because it wasn't raining anymore. And if it does happen, it'll be just a crazy memory to be around everyone while it happens. So quickly get our bill. Game's about to start like in probably even less than 5 minutes.
Facing elimination in Game 5, Golden State forced a Game 6 here in Oakland. With a win tonight, the Toronto Raptors will be crowned NBA champions. Mark Davis, David Guthrie, John Goebel are 3 officials, and the Toronto Raptors open up with possession of the basketball.
And people were like pretending like they were going to the bathroom, but they were actually coming around and huddling around us. And the stewardess would say, like, guys, you need to sit down now because we're still like gaining altitude and stuff like that. But she couldn't get them to sit down.
I go in and there's 400 people in the basement, all so excited. There's music playing, people are drinking, people are cheering, people are having the best time. And I'm like, yes, this is the energy I was looking for. this is big Raptors energy.
Kyle came out hot, and that shut everyone up real good.
His confidence that game, just like the whole team kind of rallied behind him. And I felt like the way he came into the game so confident, the whole team started.
He was very
that energy just went to the whole team.
Game 3, he made 6 threes. Here's Lowry again. Kyle Lowry has shown up in Oakland, and he has been dominant early.
That was his moment, and there's the old line, meet the moment. You have that moment, you got to meet it. And I think Kyle Lowry early in that game met it. And I think that galvanized the entire group.
At the beginning of the first quarter, we went out and grabbed some stuff because we knew we couldn't get it in Toronto. And I actually ended up meeting Kawhi's sister. Got a picture with her.
Around halftime at the game, my friend, who was the bride, made an announcement. She's like, okay, I know that a lot of you want to go watch the Raptors game. And to be honest, I want to go watch it too. So I'm letting you all out to go watch the game so we can go watch the game and celebrate together.
And we were kind of cutting it a bit close to catching the train, but we're like, oh, it's fine. Like, Winnipeg's really small. Like, we can get there in enough time. So we watched it right till halftime, and then we had to run back to the train station. I think we were like the last people there because they kind of gave us a dirty looks like we should have known to come back. We were like, no, we're on time.
The place was completely packed with people, and most people were like all Raptors fans. So it was like a mini Jurassic Park of sorts in Jamaica.
Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, a little bit of an opening. That's all they need. Siakam guarding him, and Thompson, he's got it going.
And then Klay started hitting everything, and Klay started going nuts.
I remember like calming my nerves with Jamaican rum and having some food as well, and we sat ourselves right up at the front of the theater.
And at first we were like really, really respectful of the fact that we're in this little boutique hotel, and for sure our voices would carry, and we were not obviously in a lounge or just in the room on the floor. And so as the game got more and more intense, there was no way to hold us back.
Then at the half, they turn the screen off and like start playing like Latin music, and the place turns into a disco again. So like we're all dancing at the halftime. We're like, this is amazing. We're just like, oh, this is gonna happen. It's happening today. So start of the second half, we're 2 minutes into the second half, screen goes black.
And when he got injured, the place went quiet. And when he came back, it was just straight pandemonium. It was like Rocky, like a guy coming back to the ring and just come back.
Now Thompson's coming out, and the crowd igniting here at Oracle.
Exciting in here. We're live in Kelly's Landing right next to Union Station. This is just a snapshot of what every bar in Canada looks like right now. The entire place explodes. Every single basket. There's no shortage of energy in this bar.
I thought the first half was about as intense a first half as I've ever seen play between two teams. And the atmosphere in Arco Arena was electric.
The entire game was insane. I've been to playoff games before, but it's, completely different. When you're the visiting team, it's a championship game. Like, the energy was absolutely insane.
We ended up all gathering in one of the areas. So near the dome area, they actually have like a little bar area and just some seating. And that's where we were actually with like a larger group of people at that point. So we were all just watching the game. We had about 4 cell phones out. So there was about 2 of them that were actually watching the game. And then myself, I was on Facebook, just looking at people's statuses, seeing what's going on. And then there was another girl who was on the Raptors app as well, just checking the latest updates.
So they're trying to figure it out, and different people from the crowd are trying to go up, and they're trying to tether, and they're trying to like figure this internet situation out. And eventually, like at this point, like the third period's over, and we're just like, what's gonna happen? So then all of a sudden, bunch of people who had like better phones than the hotel internet, they start bringing out their phones, and everyone is gathered in like groups of 20 gathered around one tiny cell phone screen.
There was a time where they actually, they dimmed the lights for people to rest and that sort of stuff. It's the evening time. We could care less. I mean, we were trying to be as respectful as possible, but when the game was going on, especially in the fourth quarter when it got really tight, when Van Fleet went off. I mean, we were just like cheering.
Yeah, when he hit that three.
Yeah. Especially the dagger that was just like under 4 minutes when Fred Van Fleet hit that three and we went up 3. There was just like an eruption.
I specifically remember Fred Van Fleet in the fourth sort of catching fire and hitting big shot after big shot, hitting some of those shots where you're just like, well, this is destiny. Like, this is destiny. Like, he's hit some prayers here, and our prayers as Raptors fans might be answered.
Van Fleet, what a step back, and he drills a three. Big bucket, Fred Van Fleet, releasing all the energy. He's got 12 in the corner.
Then, as if going from a big screen to a tiny cell phone with 20 people couldn't be bad enough, the guy whose phone I'm watching it on, he runs out of data. Like, this is not happening. So all he's got left, he can't stream any more video. He's on like the Google homepage, just refreshing the score. And so it's like this fairy tale run to the playoffs. This team I have followed since I was a little girl. They finally have the opportunity to win the championship. And I am in a basement hotel bar in downtown Havana watching the screen get refreshed from a kind stranger. Like, how is this happening to me?
And it's thrown to Draymond, nearly out of bounds. Curry lets it fly, doesn't go. Loose ball. It's Kawhi Leonard tracking it down, diving for it. They don't have a timeout left.
And then finally, when it starts to sink in a little bit, it looked good. And then all of a sudden you have this technical foul. And people in the arena had no idea what was going on for those few minutes when they're checking the replay. So like, what the heck's going on here? And then finally they announced they got a technical foul because they called a timeout without having any timeouts on.
The final 2 minutes of the game were very bizarre. But when the clock stopped and we won, like, we just lost it. We're huddling, we're crying. There's literally a Canadian flag wrapped around us.
2-possession game. 114-110. Curry lets it fly. Canada, the NBA title is yours. The Toronto Raptors are the 2019 NBA champions.
When Steph Curry threw that long, pass and Kyle Lowry got it in his hands and just went down and had that smile that, everybody just loves so much and was embracing Kawhi and all that. We were just screaming and yelling in our room. I think we were jumping on the bed, actually, if I remember correctly.
I know that we won because I was in the heart of downtown. And even though it was quiet in our suite, all of a sudden we just started, little by little, you just heard roars and screams and cheering, and we looked at each other and I was like, I guess we won.
We begin tonight with the rapturous exhilaration across the nation as the Toronto Raptors make history and bring home Canada's first ever NBA title.
We did it!
How surreal is this moment?
I can't get over it. It's just so surreal. It's deadly. I can't believe it. Wow, come on, Raptors!
I remember this to the point where even the producer on scene and the camera guy on scene and the audio guy on scene, they were all like, they knew I wanted to go celebrate and have fun with my friends and stuff like that in my city. And they were like, we can just tell them we lost the feed and just pull the plug. And I was like, no, don't worry about that. I'll do this. It's not that big a deal.
We hop out of the theater. Everybody's still buzzing. Everybody's still celebrating. We go to one of the bars in the resort, and we meet up with the rest of our wedding party, including my friend, the bride, who is still in her wedding dress, just came back from watching the game herself. She's celebrating. She's loving life.
Confetti's flying everywhere, and you're hugging so many random people and screaming, and like my best friend was crying.
We were just like high-fiving each other. There were people that were offering to pay some of our streaming service that we
One
paid.
guy actually gave us $20 for the streaming the game. Yeah.
The final buzzer went. All the Golden State fans are bailing, and me and my boys were just head to the front. We got courtside seats right at the front.
You get down, and there's just Raptors fans everywhere. We're behind the stage, but like we didn't care. seeing, Adam Silver crown the Raptors champion, seeing Kawhi get MVP, seeing Kyle lift up the trophy. It was absolutely everything to us.
We went to get into a bar to get some drinks at one point, and we ran into the Arkells, and they were hugging us too. They were massive fans there, which was, we were just oh, is this really happening? I can't believe, we're still happy about what happened, but we're this is the Arkells, okay.
Everyone feels like we won, in a sense,
And we've had such a strong basketball city, such a huge basketball city for so long. It's we deserve this.
It felt like I won a championship with all of my friends and fans of our show knowing we were Raptors fans, tweeting us and texting us congrats, like we had been a part of it.
I just turned on my phone and it was this flurry of text messages, FaceTime, missed calls, and all that sort of stuff. But we were able to kind of just turn on our phones, connect with people back home here in Toronto right away. And it was just everyone was still celebrating.
I remember having a cold beer and walking outside of where we were, which was a beautiful restaurant right along the water, right near the Bay Bridge, and going outside and having a beer and a cigar. And, literally probably 100 feet away from me was Kawhi Leonard doing the same exact thing. And we just looked at each other and gave each other the thumbs up.
Now we're going through online and seeing what all the championship swag is you can buy. So we're buying all these things, jerseys, bobbleheads, you name it.
You go through ridicule wearing Raptors jerseys, in New York, in LA, in Miami, in Boston, all these places where they're yo, what are you wearing? Take that dinosaur off, you know what I'm saying? Till now, you see some of the biggest artists and entertainers in the world proudly wearing their Raptors gear, you know what I'm saying?
It felt like it was Canada's team. It didn't matter where you were from. Even internationally, everybody was cheering for the Toronto Raptors, which was fantastic.
Being in Toronto and being in the heart of it and seeing just the emotions that everyone had, and because people have been waiting lifetimes to see this happen.
I look at the connection and the partnership that the Raptor fans have with their team. I think the Raptor team was a group of guys that I think people could all rally around. The stick-to-itiveness and the determination is an amazing thing. And that's a gift that team had. I think that's a gift that they brought to basketball fans all across Canada.
Get the plant, man. Where'd you get that?
It's a housewarming gift for Kawhi. I want my chips with the dip. That's all I know.